when Detective Maria Lopez uncovered a hidden arsenal in a forgotten warehouse, and whistleblower Jenna Reyes stepped forward to expose a powerful criminal syndicate, the city's fate hung in the balance. What started as a quiet neighborhood's decline revealed a web of corruption that threatened to consume everything. But was the city falling? Or was it just about to rise? The city had long been a place of vibrant life and opportunity, its streets bustling with people chasing dreams and families building futures. For decades, the neighborhood at the city's heart was a symbol of stability, a place where neighbors knew each other and local shops thrived. But over the last few years, things began to shift. The once lively factories and warehouses that gave jobs to thousands started shutting down, one by one. The steady hum of machinery gave way to silence, and empty buildings lined the streets, casting long shadows over cracked sidewalks. The community felt the change deeply. Friends moved away in search of better opportunities, and those who stayed noticed the slow erosion of what had made the neighborhood feel safe and alive. Along with the economic decline came something more unsettling. Residents started noticing more frequent break-ins. Cars left unlocked suddenly vanished, and at night, unfamiliar faces appeared where none had before. There were rumors of gangs moving in, and a quiet fear settled in. Parents worried about letting their children play outside, and shopkeepers boarded up windows earlier than usual. Police patrols increased, but the officers on the beat seemed overwhelmed, as if trying to hold back a tide that was growing stronger every day. Yet the city wasn't falling apart completely. Just beyond the worn streets, new signs of life appeared. Gleaming high-rises and glass-fronted offices began to rise on the outskirts, promising a future of innovation and wealth. Young professionals moved into sleek apartments, and cafes buzzed with energy that seemed to come from a different world. These developments promised a revival, a turning point for a city on the edge. But for those in the old neighborhood, this new world felt distant, almost unreal, a promise that hadn't yet reached their doorsteps. The fragile balance between decline and renewal was shattered one chilly autumn evening when a local homeless man stumbled across an old warehouse on the city's forgotten side. Inside, hidden beneath piles of discarded crates and broken pallets, he found something no one expected: a stockpile of illegal weapons, ammunition, and large quantities of drugs carefully packed and ready to be distributed. The discovery shocked the police department and city officials. How could such an arsenal have gone unnoticed in a place so close to the city center? What was this cache for, and who was behind it? The warehouse became the epicenter of a massive investigation. Officers swarmed the area, collecting evidence and following leads that pointed to a larger criminal operation. At first, the city seemed stunned into silence, but soon the news spread. People speculated wildly, some fearing a gang war was imminent, others wondering if the city's progress was just a facade hiding a darker reality. The investigation uncovered layers of secrecy, connections between the warehouse and a string of recent violent crimes that had puzzled the police. What was most surprising was how the syndicate managed to operate under the radar for so long, even as the city continued to change around them. The weapons and drugs were not just for street-level dealers. They indicated a well-organized network with ambitions far beyond local turf battles. This hidden enemy thrived in the cracks of the city's transformation, feeding off the fear and uncertainty of its residents. As the investigation deepened, the city faced a difficult question. Was it truly on the path to recovery, or was it slipping into something much more dangerous? The answer would come, but not without revealing truths that many were not ready to face. The investigation into the weapons and drug stash revealed something far more complex than anyone had anticipated. What began as a search for simple street criminals quickly exposed a vast and highly organized criminal network operating in the shadows. This syndicate wasn't made up of just a few local thugs. It was a sophisticated operation with layers of control and influence stretching deep into the city's daily life. Detectives followed clues that led to several legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction firms, and even tech startups, all seemingly successful on the surface, but secretly acting as fronts for laundering money and distributing illegal goods. This network operated with precision, using well-planned routes and encrypted communication to avoid detection. It was clear they had access to resources and protection that made their operations difficult to disrupt. Even more alarming were signs that some members of the city's law enforcement and local government might be involved. Reports surfaced of officers ignoring suspicious activity or deliberately turning a blind eye, while a few city officials were rumored to have financial ties to companies linked with the syndicate. Corruption had taken root, making the fight against crime even more complicated. The very people sworn to protect the city seemed entangled in the web of deception. The syndicate's ability to infiltrate everyday life extended beyond crime. They influenced decisions about urban development and public safety. Large infrastructure projects appeared to benefit certain businesses tied to the network, and contracts were awarded under questionable circumstances. This manipulation suggested that the criminal group was not only interested in profit, but also in controlling the city's future direction. Residents grew increasingly uneasy. Neighborhood watch groups formed in some areas, trying to reclaim their streets, but the fear remained palpable. The syndicate's reach made it clear that anyone who challenged them could become a target. Several community leaders who spoke out about the growing crime wave faced intimidation and threats, silencing many who might have helped expose the truth. Despite the danger, the investigation pressed on. Undercover officers risked their lives gathering information, while financial experts traced suspicious transactions that crossed state and even international lines. The syndicate's network was far-reaching, connected to global criminal organizations dealing in drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. The city became a battleground between those fighting to restore safety and those determined to maintain control through fear and corruption. As the layers of the syndicate unraveled, the city's image as a rising hub of opportunity was challenged by a harsh reality. Beneath the surface, an invisible enemy had taken hold. The line between right and wrong blurred, leaving citizens unsure whom to trust. Yet amid the darkness, small victories emerged. Arrests of low-level operatives provided new leads, and several insiders began to question their loyalty. The syndicate's power was immense, but cracks were beginning to show. As the city grappled with the scope of the threat, a sense of cautious hope flickered. The battle was far from over, but the investigation was starting to turn the tide. The question lingering in everyone's mind was whether the city could break free from this grip before it was too late, or if the invisible enemy would tighten its hold, pulling the community further into a spiral of crime and corruption. The struggle was about to reach a critical point, where every move could change the city's destiny. Amid growing tension and fear, a surprising development shifted the course of the investigation. Deep inside the syndicate, a young woman named Jenna Reyes grew tired of the violence and lies surrounding her. She had joined the network years ago, believing it was just a way to survive and provide for her family. But as the crimes escalated and innocent lives were ruined, Jenna began to see the true cost of her involvement. The weight of guilt became unbearable, and she made a bold decision: she would become a whistleblower. Jenna's decision was not without risk. She knew that betraying the syndicate could mean severe, made a bold consequence of death. Yet, her courage pushed her forward. Quietly, she started gathering evidence, documents, recordings, and details of meetings, carefully hiding them away. Over weeks, she contacted law enforcement through secure channels, offering the information that would eventually expose key members of the network. The evidence she provided was shocking. It linked high-ranking criminals to some of the city's most respected businesspeople and officials. Her information helped authorities plan coordinated raids and arrests, striking deep into the heart of the syndicate's operations. The police seized more weapons, uncovered hidden drug labs, and froze assets tied to the criminal enterprise. News of the arrest spread quickly, bringing a sense of relief and hope to many residents. Neighborhoods that had been plagued by fear slowly began to breathe easier. Community watch groups grew stronger, and local leaders worked to rebuild trust. The city showed signs of healing, and many believed the darkest days were behind them. However, the victory was bittersweet. Jenna's identity was kept secret to protect her, but rumors of a traitor within the syndicate fueled paranoia among criminals. Some retaliated with violence, targeting anyone suspected of cooperating with authorities. The city's recovery was fragile, and many feared the syndicate was only regrouping, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Still, Jenna's bravery inspired others. Ordinary citizens started speaking out, demanding transparency and reform. The police, once seen as complicit or powerless, gained new respect as they worked alongside the community to keep the streets safe. It seemed the city was turning a corner, yet beneath the surface, some questioned whether the syndicate had truly been dismantled or merely pushed underground. The arrests had hit major players, but the network's roots ran deep. Some believed that the criminal organization had learned from its mistakes, adapting its methods to avoid future detection. The struggle between hope and fear continued. The city was no longer the same. It was scarred, but also stronger. The battle lines were clear, but the outcome remained uncertain. Jenna's actions had sparked change, but the real test would come in the days ahead, when the city faced the choice to rise fully from its past or fall back into the shadows. Her story was a reminder that even in the darkest times, courage could light the way, and that sometimes, the smallest voice could shake the foundations of a dangerous empire. The city held its breath, waiting to see what the future would bring. As the investigation delved deeper, what initially appeared to be a local crime syndicate began to unravel into a much larger and more troubling conspiracy. New evidence revealed that the criminal network operating within the city was only one part of a sprawling international web. Money laundering schemes connected to offshore accounts and foreign businesses were traced back to the city's streets, indicating that the syndicate's reach extended far beyond local borders. Financial experts working with law enforcement uncovered layers of complex transactions designed to disguise illegal profits as legitimate earnings. These funds moved through shell companies and fake invoices, making it nearly impossible to follow the money trail. What was once thought to be isolated corruption now pointed to global criminal organizations exploiting the city's vulnerabilities as a hub for their operations. Investigators also found links between the syndicate and public infrastructure projects. Several major urban development deals were being quietly funneled through companies connected to the criminal enterprise. This revelation shocked city officials and residents alike. The buildings and roads that symbolized progress were, in some cases, funded by dirty money. The criminal network had cleverly embedded itself into the city's growth, using public projects as a front to launder money and increase their influence. The deeper conspiracy extended into the political realm as well. Some city leaders, previously thought to be champions of reform, were implicated in accepting bribes and kickbacks. This betrayal shook the community's trust in their government. Many felt the city's future was being shaped not by the will of its people, but by hidden hands working for their own gain. Efforts to combat this new level of corruption faced serious challenges. Whistleblowers feared retaliation, and some investigators found themselves stonewalled by powerful individuals with connections that reached far beyond the city limits. The line between friend and foe blurred, and it became increasingly difficult to determine who could be trusted. The city's citizens watched in disbelief as public hearings revealed the extent of the deception. The urban renewal projects, once celebrated, were now seen as part of a sinister plan to tighten control over the city. This left many questioning whether true progress was possible, or if the city was merely a pawn in a larger game controlled by criminals with global ambitions. Despite these setbacks, a determined group of activists, journalists, and honest officials pushed forward. They exposed key players and demanded accountability. Their efforts sparked public outrage and increased pressure on law enforcement agencies to take more decisive action. Yet, the syndicate adapted quickly. They changed tactics, shifting operations to more discreet and sophisticated methods. The fight against corruption and crime became a relentless battle, requiring vigilance and courage from all who cared about the city's future. This chapter in the city's story revealed that the struggle was no longer just local, it was part of a vast, interconnected system of crime and power. The stakes were higher than ever, and the city faced a harsh reality. Its rise or fall depended on the strength of those willing to confront the darkness, even when it came from unexpected places. As the investigation continued, it became clear that the city's true challenge was not just rebuilding its streets or reducing crime, but breaking free from a deeply entrenched system that threatened to control every aspect of its life. The question remained, could the city rise above this shadow, or was it destined to fall deeper into it? The city found itself at a crossroads, its future uncertain, as the battle between hope and despair raged on. On the surface, signs of recovery were visible. Streets were cleaner, community events returned, and new businesses opened their doors. Many residents believed that the worst was behind them, that the arrests and investigations had finally broken the syndicate's grip. The city's leadership promised transparency and reform, pledging to rebuild trust and create a safer environment for all. But beneath this optimistic exterior, doubts lingered. The deep-rooted corruption and criminal networks had left scars that would not easily heal. Some feared that the syndicate's downfall was only temporary, a momentary setback before it regrouped and returned stronger than before. The web of influence and deceit had been so extensive that even with arrests and convictions, its echoes remained in unexpected places. Citizens found themselves questioning everything they once took for granted. Trust in government and law enforcement was fragile, tested by years of betrayal and hidden alliances. Community groups worked tirelessly to keep the momentum going, but the fear of retaliation still haunted neighborhoods. Whispers of underground activities persisted, and mysterious disappearances reminded people that the shadow of crime was far from gone. New leadership faced immense challenges. Reform efforts were often met with resistance from entrenched interests seeking to protect their power and profits. Transparency initiatives uncovered more uncomfortable truths, leading to further scandals and resignations. The road to genuine change proved longer and more difficult than anyone had hoped. At the same time, the city's economy began to shift. Investment flowed into some areas, while others struggled to keep pace. The divide between neighborhoods grew, highlighting inequalities that the syndicate had exploited for years. This uneven recovery sparked debates about who truly benefited from the city's rebirth and who was left behind in the struggle. Despite these obstacles, a sense of resilience emerged among the city's residents. Stories of courage and solidarity inspired hope. Ordinary people banded together to demand accountability and build safer communities. The legacy of the whistleblower and the brave investigators fueled a determination not to let the past define the future. The city's fate remained uncertain, a delicate balance between rising from the ashes or slipping back into chaos. The battle against corruption and crime was ongoing, a reminder that vigilance and courage were needed every day. The true test would be whether the city could harness its strengths, confront its weaknesses, and choose a path toward lasting renewal. As the sun set over the skyline, the city stood quietly, watching and waiting. Its story was far from over. The question that hung in the air was clear: would it fall back into darkness, or would it rise stronger and wiser, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead? The answer depended on the choices made by those who called the city home, and the courage to shape its destiny.